There we go. Now I'm unmuted. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. I am Bethany with Singer Sewing Company, and today we're going to talk about how to make this beautiful quilted wall hanging that I have behind me. So if that is the class you signed up for, you're in the right place. Real quick, I have two colleagues in the chat with me today helping out. So I have Amy. She's going to be dropping links to the products that I'm using today. Everything is I'm using for the most part is available over on Michaels.com. So be sure to check it out. And I will tell you that we have some amazing Black Friday deals over on Michaels.com for our Singer branded machine. So be sure you check that out, and we'll talk a little bit more about the machine I'm using today. Also, I have Sonny in the chat with me. So if you have a sewing related question to what we're talking about today, please put it in the chat. She will be answering those. But if she feels like it's something I need to repeat or answer on camera or show again, she will chime in, and you might hear her voice from time to time to let me know that, because it's hard to sew and keep up with all that you guys are chatting about. But I'm so glad you're here. So what we're going to do for today's class, you should have the instructions. If you don't, I know that Amy will be able to link them in the chat so you can pull them up. But I really recommend that you take a second to get a pen and piece of paper. Your instructions, the first page should look something like this. Actually, hold on, that's the last page. Should look something like this. And so we're going to go through the steps of this project today. We are not going to sew up the whole project today because it would take more than the time we have together. So we're going to go through all the steps on a much smaller scale so that you can learn how to do it and then apply that to making this project. Now, I know mine is fall themed here, and I just love fall, but I know that that's kind of wrapping up and everybody's gearing up for holiday Christmas mode. So this whole project could be in another type of fabric. So get creative, make something, pick fabrics that are going to fit the season that you want to sew for, or the theme and colors that you have in your sewing room, or wherever you want to put this. Or maybe you want to make this as a gift for someone, and this would be a fabulous gift to give someone. So anyways, we're going to get started and we're going to kind of jump right in. But if you guys, again, have any questions, please put them in the chat. I love it when you talk with me and interact, and I'll try to look at it as much as I can. But like I said, Sonny and Amy are there as well. All right, so to get started, real quick, the machine that I'm sewing on today is available over at Michaels.com. It's the Singer SC220. It is a computerized sewing machine, so we're going to be sewing on that today. So if you want to check it out, be sure to click the link that Amy's going to drop in the chat with this for the specific machine. But like I said, Black Friday deals are here, and they're pretty great. So you want to stay tuned for that. But first thing, what we're going to do, and I kind of want to just show you what we're working towards, because like I said, we're going to do like a mini version of this beautiful quilt behind me, is we're going to do about this much of it. Okay, so we're going to be making one of these blocks, so learning how to piece these together, and then we're going to quilt it, and then we're going to put a binding around it. So basically we're just doing this whole thing in just a smaller square so we can get through all the steps, because I want to make sure we go over everything. Okay, in my tutorial that I have here, it's quite a few pages because I really wrote this for beginner quilters. If you've never quilted before, or you're very beginning at quilting, and you're like, I'm not sure if I am doing all the steps right, or if I know all the tips and tricks, this tutorial is extremely thorough. So if you are really serious about getting into quilting, or seeing if it's something that you want to dabble into and learn more about, this is going to give you that foundation to feel like I really know all the best advice to build a quilt, and then I can take that, what I'm learning in this project, and apply it to my next project and my next project, and it just builds from there. So please take the time to kind of go through. There's a lot of tips and tricks in this tutorial. Okay, all right, so let's switch to another camera real quick. All right, so I've got my pieces, and what we're going to try to build first is these 4 squares. Oh, let me hide that real quick. There we go. We want to build these 4 squares. So we want to do something called piecing. And I've got my pieces here. And these are just, let's see here. I think they're 4.5, yeah, 4.5 inch squares. I did list that in the tutorial, but you can change this to be a size that you want to use, but we're going to do 4.5 inch squares. And I've got my little printed one. I've got more of a solid. You can mix and match, and we're going to lay those right sides together. All of your squares should be the same size. I've got another set lined up here. And we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew these together. Now, you've probably heard when it comes to quilting, you want to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the best way to make sure you're getting a good 1/4 inch seam allowance is by using a 1/4 inch foot, which I do not have attached to this machine right now. I wanted to show it to you up close first. There's a couple of different ones. The one that I'm using today is let's see if we can get it to pick up and focus. There we go. Is a clear 1/4 inch, which is always kind of fun and unique. So I can really see my material well, but yours may not be clear. Yours may be metal, and that's totally fine. Use what you have, but we want to use a 1/4 inch foot. One of the key things to note here is on a 1/4 inch foot, you see that little circle in the middle? That means that my needle needs to be in the center needle position. If I move my needle position to one side or the other, my needle's going to hit that foot and probably break my needle and could possibly even break this foot since it's a plastic one. All right, so I'm just gonna pop my all-purpose foot off and I'm gonna stick this one on. There we go. And my needle is in that center needle position. And then for my piecing, I'm gonna leave my straight stitch at a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. And I'm going to show you that over here so you can see the front of this machine for a second. So this is the SC220, the Singer SC220 that I'm going to be sewing on today. You're probably just going to kind of see this area today, but I wanted you to be able to see the whole thing. It is computerized. It does have a lot of decorative stitches right here on the front of the machine. I'm just using a straight stitch today. I can adjust my stitch length and width here. I can control my speed. It does have speed control, which is really nice because there's times when you want to take it a little slower. I have a needle up down, which is going to come in handy when we're doing some binding later. I have a back stitch and have a start stop. So I have everything I really need to be able to do this project right here on the front of this machine. And it makes it super easy with just a touch of a button. All right. So let's get into sewing. I'm going to turn my chair around here. I'm like, got cords everywhere today. So bear with me. Okay. So for a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I want to line up because I know from the center needle position to the edge of this foot is a 1/4 inch. If you're not sure or you're not using a 1/4 inch foot because you don't have one, that's okay. You just need to make sure that you are sewing a 1/4 inch. So this is where, you know, getting your ruler out and making sure that it is a 1/4 inch is always helpful. You could also take a piece of painter's tape and put it where that 1/4 inch is so that you have a guide if you need it. But I'm using that 1/4 inch foot. So I'm going to just line up the edge of my material with the edge of this foot and make sure that your two pieces are right sides together and lined up evenly. And we're just gonna sew. Machine's actually very quiet. Oh, that's because my thread just came out. I even held my thread. No wonder. I did this earlier when I was setting up. So I thought, oh, I won't make that mistake on air. And then that's the first thing I did. Let me get this going. Hold on. There we go. That needle threader sure does come in handy because my eyes do not do well with threading needles. If you are not using your needle threader on your machine, you need to learn how to use it. It is definitely a helpful tool. There we go. Okay. Well, excuse me one second while I fix this. I don't know what I just did. This was sewing just fine earlier. My apologies. Let me grab my scissors real quick. I'm going to move this out of my way. There we go. I know what happens. Happens to the best of us, I promise. But we don't get frustrated or flustered. My thread in my bobbin got jammed, and that's okay. And I got it out, and we can start over. Crisis averted. Like I said, it happens to all of us. We're gonna bring our bobbin up to the top. There we go. Aha. Sorry about that. But if you ever get a jam like that, now you know how to fix it. It's more than likely a bobbin. I had an extra thread in there and I don't know how, but that happens. And it can cause issues. And now we are up and running again. And make sure we're good to go. I don't know why it's doing that. Well, we will continue to troubleshoot. I don't see any other threads. So when in doubt, we rethread our machine. I'm telling you, I've been sewing on this machine all morning, and that is what happens when you do live classes sometimes. So I appreciate your patience. There we go. Bobbin is in again, in my tension disc. There is a little bit of a catch there, and I'm not really sure why, but we're gonna give it another try. And if it doesn't work, I can go grab a different machine. You'll just have to be a little patient with me. I apologize. Okay, I think we're working now. I apologize for that. So let me bring you back to this camera. I had to move it just so I could get in there and do some tweaking. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was working before I brought you back over. All right, so I sewed down the 1/4 inch of that one. I'm gonna do the same on this one. One thing that we like to do when we're quilting is what's called chain piecing. It just makes it go by a little faster. You save some thread. I'm gonna move this a little closer for you so you can see. There we go. So I've got to the end of my first piece that I stitched together. You can see that here. And I want to take my next square, because typically when you're quilting, you're going to do quite a bit of these at once. And so to make it go faster, we're just going to kind of line this one up to feed in right after that one. So there will be just a couple of stitches in between, and then it just keeps feeding through. We're going to stitch all the way down this one, that same 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you would repeat this for all of your squares. So if I got another set of squares, I'll grab another one since you guys didn't get to see the first one up close. Let me grab another one. I'll line these two up. There we go. And just like that, we're gonna feed that through. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now I have all of these chained together. You see those couple of stitches that are in between? Easy peasy. All right, so we're gonna switch over to this camera, because one of the key things when it comes to quilting is ironing. You wanna make sure that you are ironing your pieces as you go, and checking your seam allowances and everything. So we're gonna press these open So I'm going to fold these out. Now, I'm going to share with you a couple products that, as we go through this class, of things that I personally like to use. You don't have to use them, but you can. And one of those is this right here. It's Mary Ellen's Best Press. Okay. And personal favorite is the Linen Fresh, but all of their scents smell amazing. I think they even have an unscented. But this is a clear starch. So this is really helpful when I use this on my material before I cut it into my square, so I get nice, straight, clean cuts. And then I will also press my pieces before I start sewing them so that they're really nice and clean. And then I like to use it as we go. I'm not going to use it in here today, but I just wanted to share that with you. Now, when it comes to pressing your seams open, everybody has personal preference, but today I'm going to, and some people like to press it open like this, which is totally fine, but we're going to press it to one side. And the side that I choose is usually the darker fabric, because if I press it to this side, you're more likely to see that seam allowance on this side because it's a lighter fabric. So rule of thumb when doing this is to press it towards the darker fabric. And we're going to do that. I'm using my Singer SteamCraft iron. You do want an iron that has that presses really well. I love this little like precision point here. I get cut off. I had to turn it back on. But yeah, we have our nice little press. I like to flip it over. There we go. So we've got a nice clean line here, and we're going to do the same thing to this one. Keep calm and sew on. Thank you, Amy. I try to stay calm. I mean, it happens to the best of us. And if it happens to me, it's okay if it happens to you, right? This is how we learn. All right. Trying to eliminate all my threads a little bit here. All right, so I have my two pieces. And so the next step that we want to do is we want to sew these together to make a square, our first block, okay? And so the trick is we want our pumpkins and our yellows to be opposite. I mean, you could do it this way if you want, if that's, I mean, again, personal preference. But I kind of like the opposites. It makes for a fun pattern. So we want to be able to, we want to sew these together. So we've sewed our row. Now we want to sew our rows together. So we're going to do right sides together again, and we want to line up this seam and this seam. A little trick I have for you here, because getting your seams lined up is really important. And so I try to get it as close as I can lined up, and then I take a pin. You guys see this? I take a pin and I will put it through my stitches on this side, and as it pokes through, I want to check and see if it's popping through my stitches on the other side. I am the worst at getting these camera positions. Okay, so it's through the stitches on this side and it pops through perfectly on my stitches on the other side. So that means my seam is lined up, and I'm just gonna kind of secure that in place and make sure that my edges on both sides are lined up going all the way across. So now we can sew all the way across here using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, and that's going to put our two rows together. So let's go back to our sewing machine. All right. And like I said, we're still using that 1/4 inch foot, and we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. There we go. I'm going to take it nice and slow. Make sure our material isn't slipping and sliding. If you need to adjust the speed on the computerized machine, you can. Now we don't want to sew over our pin, so I am going to take that out. I'm just making sure my fabric's lined up. There we go. I wait until it gets like almost under the foot, so I know that my material's not going to shift and move before I take that pin out. There we go. Got that little thread cutter on the side of the machine that comes in very handy. All right, so back over here, we're going to open this up, and it already looks so good. It's perfect match. We're going to flip this over, and I like to kind of press in both directions. There's a couple tricks that you can do here. Some people will open it up and create that little square. I'm just going to cut not cutting into my stitches. Don't want to do that. I'm just doing a little dice there, so my seams will lay down nice and flat. So one will go that way and one will go that way. Does that make sense? So when I press this to the dark side and this to the dark side, the darker fabric, you could do it all to one side. It's totally, like I said, totally up to you. And we're gonna press that down. Ooh, you hear that steam now, don't you? Probably can see it on camera too. There we go. So it's looking really good. One thing I do recommend is kind of trimming your threads as you go. Could probably not drop them on the floor like I am, but that's okay. All right, so here is the back and here is the front. If you want to give this a little spritz, you can, and we can press it. Now with pressing, we want to kind of put it down and hold it. We don't want to iron it and slide it around. It's easy to do that because that's kind of habit, but I'm picking it up and pressing. We don't want to shift our fabric and shift or stretch our seams, okay? So that is our block. Butting the seams up to each other is one reason I also like to press the seams to one side. Yes, very much so. So there we go. Easy enough to make our first block. Any questions so far? Sonia, is there anything I need to address or redo, or can we keep going?
No questions. Actually, Kathleen just started. She says, does the 1/4 inch foot help when turning to keep the other 1/4 inch seam on the other side? And what is a good technique to keep the 1/4 inch when turning?
That's a great question, Kathleen. I'm going to take the foot off so you can see on the side. Well, if I hold it correctly, give me a second. We'll get there. Oh, here we are together. Can you guys see that? There are marks on the side of the foot. So as you are approaching that edge of the material on your machine, you can go, okay, well, if this mark right here is at the edge of my material, then this must be a 1/4 inch from that. I'm trying, y'all. And so you know to stop there because that's where the needle is. And then you can leave your needle down, lift your foot and pivot and keep sewing down the other side. So yes, if you pay attention to the markings, and whether you have a clear foot or a metal foot, that will definitely help with that. You can also use a ruler. So you could, as you're sewing down one side, before you start sewing, you could just take your ruler and a little fabric pen if you want and mark where that 1/4 inch is so that you know to stop there and it doesn't get away from you. Okay. So that's another little trick, and we'll be doing that when we do our binding. Okay. All right. So now that we've got our block done, we're going to pretend in the camera magic world that we've done our whole quilt front. Okay. So obviously this is just one block, okay, of this whole piece of the puzzle, but we're going to pretend that we've done the whole quilt front. And now we're ready to make what's called a quilt sandwich. And while I wish it involved snacks, and it could if you really wanted to, it is not a snack, but we call it a quilt sandwich. All right, so let me grab some pieces here. So to make a quilt, obviously you're going to need our pieces to make the whole quilt front. You're going to need a piece of fabric that is bigger than your quilt front to be your back fabric, which we have our back fabric. You're also going to need batting. I'm going to show you 2 different types of batting today, regular batting, and then we have a fusible fleece batting that you could use, especially if you're making a smaller project. It's a great option. And then you're also going to need material to make your binding. which I have right here. I'm using the same material on the back as my binding for this today, okay? So we're gonna talk about these pieces and how to build your quilt sandwich. All right, so as I mentioned, we have our back piece. This one is directional, so I wanna make sure that it is going, like it says, I don't know if you can read this, give thanks, gather, thankful. It's really cute fabric. And so I'm gonna put that face down on my surface. I recommend doing this if you're doing a really big quilt on the floor, maybe. If you are doing a smaller quilt or something small like what we're doing today, you could totally do that on a table like I am. So we wanna make sure that it is bigger than our quilt front because we wanna make sure that we cut a big enough piece for this whole thing and make sure we get it lined up. But we need something to go between our front and our back pieces. So think of this as like the bread of your sandwich, and we need some meat and cheese in the middle. And so this is where our batting comes into play. So this is just a cotton batting. It's really soft and cozy. So if this quilt is going to be on a bed or a blanket or something cozy, you may want to go with something like this. If it's going to be a wall hanging, you could use what's called fusible fleece. Fusible fleece is fuzzy and fleecy on one side, but this side is bumpy. So if I were to press this down right here, it would, with my iron, and it would actually fuse to the back. So it could be a great option if you want. And you know what, we may do that one today. But if you don't want to use a fusible fleece and you want to use this, I want to give you another option of how you can adhere all of these pieces together, okay? So let's just kind of pretend for a second. I've got my back piece. I've got, I like to call the meat and cheese of my sandwich, my batting, the yummy part, okay? It's what makes it so cozy. And I have my quilt front. My batting for this example, because I wanted you to be able to see it, is bigger than my quilt front. And I do like to have it bigger than my quilt front to make sure that I am getting it completely covered. I'm not shorting myself any batting or backing. All right, so here's my sandwich. And you're probably wondering, okay, well, how do I keep all of these pieces together while I'm quilting them together? So we want to sew them or quilt them together, but we need to make sure that our sandwich isn't going to fall apart, okay? We don't want our stuff to fall out the middle or anything like that. So there's a couple of options. One of my favorite and preferred method, especially when I'm doing smaller projects like this, is to use a spray like this. It's a basting adhesive. It's a temporary bond. So if I put this down, I spray, right? And I, put it down. It is a temporary bond. So if I kind of get it off, I can lift it and fix it if I need to. A couple things on this. You want to use this in a well-ventilated space. I'm not going to use this in my tiny studio today, especially right next to the iron. It is an aerosol. So I am not going to use this in here, but it does make the process very, very easy and helps get it all smoothed out and straight. So if you don't have some of this and you're comfortable using with an aerosol, again, if you have any sort of sensitivities to spray aerosols, do not use this. I'm going to show you another method. The other method would be instead of spraying here and here, and then you can also spray to attach the back as well. So you can spray the whole thing together. The other method would be to use quilting pens, and I have a few here. Now, something unique to quilting pens, I'm going to hold these up, is they've got a bend in the pen. So they're not regular safety pens. They've got a little bend to them, and that helps feed it through the material. So you kind of want to do it multiple places. I like to kind of do one in the middle. And you're going to want to go through all three layers, the front, the center, and the back. And that bend creates room for the thickness of the quilt so you can lay it nice and flat still. I like to do one kind of in the center of each of these squares. Part of the reason why I personally don't like to use pens unless I'm doing a really big quilt. And if I'm doing a really big quilt, I will use probably a basting spray and pens. I'll do a combination of both because it's a really big quilt. But for something smaller, I'll just kind of use the basting spray. because I typically will stab myself a few times with these pins, and that's never fun. I've already done it once on camera. If you caught it. There we go. Since you can't see my face, maybe you didn't catch my ouch expression on my face. Now, you can use as many pins as you want. It's up to you and personal preference. But for time's sake, we're going to stop there. And so now we have our quilt sandwich. See how it's pinned? Easy peasy. Any questions about making a quilt sandwich? Again, you could use a fusible fleece. You could fuse one side and then spray adhesive or pin the other side on. Totally up to you. But for today, we're gonna pin it. All right, so now we have to decide how we wanna quilt our quilt, okay? Now I'm gonna show you real quick, and you may not be able to see it from afar. I've got this pinned to the wall, but you can see it in the instructions. I did diagonal straight stitch lines across my quilt going both directions so that there's an X in all of my small blocks. And then in the big block, because I have, this is just one big piece. It's not like a smaller blocks. It's one big piece. I actually did not do it all the way through the center of these because I did not want to stitch over my little pumpkins here. So I kind of fussy cut meaning I cut the material, these blocks specifically so that these pumpkins were the center of the block so that they were kind of the focal point. So if you have a material that is a busier pattern or bigger print and you want to fussy cut, like maybe for Christmas, you want to do one with Santa or reindeer or snowman, and you want that to be the focus on these bigger blocks, you want to what's called fussy cut. So aligning your ruler as you cut it over so that these are in the center. Now you could stitch through them, it's totally fine, but I chose not to for the bigger pieces. So I skipped a row so that they didn't cut through there. So it's all about planning when you go to quilt your quilt. We've done classes on quilting techniques through Michael's. I'm sure Amy can post a few of those here in the chat if you want to save those for later to look at. We've done a class on different types of quilting. So there's straight stitch, straight line quilting, there's stippling, there's free motion, there's, you could even embroider doing the quilting through embroidery. So there's a lot of different ways that you can quilt, and it truly is personal preference. In this tutorial though, I really kind of focus on the straight stitch or straight line quilting because this is really geared towards beginners. But if you are beyond a beginner and you still want to make this and you want to quilt it however you want, please do what you like. If it's your first time and you want to try a different type of quilting, like free motion quilting, this is the best way to practice free motion quilting. Make a little block or cut one piece and make your quilt sandwich and try free motion quilting. I'm not going to show free motion quilting today, but I highly recommend that you practice. It's one of those skills that the more you do it, the easier it gets. I actually really like doing it. It's a lot of fun. But today we're going to straight line. We're just going to do straight stitching. So there's a couple of ways that we can prepare a material to do that. And this is where rulers come into play. We may need a longer one. And it's totally up to you how you want to do this. Let's do some diagonals because that's what I did in the tutorial. So there's a couple of things that you can use. We've got this two-ended corner turner. We're going to link this in the chat. This is also a tool that you can get from Michael's. And so you can push out corners here with this tool, but this end is what we're going to use today. And this is where you can take, if you don't want to use a pen to mark your material, like a fabric pen, you can use this and line it up, and it makes a crease. You see that crease? Can you see that? Maybe hard to see. You can kind of see it. It's subtle, but it's there. this is also why I like to do basting spray, so I don't have clips in the way. But we can make a crease that goes across here. And it kind of creates like a stitch guide for when we're quilting across. Another option, and we'll do it going this way, I may have to move my pens, is to use a fabric marker or washable fabric pen. I personally love the friction pens because they're erasable pens, and they actually disappear with an iron, which is kind of fun. So I'm going to use this one. Now, I always recommend that you test your pen on a scrap piece of fabric before you just start drawing on the front of your finished quilt. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to move this marker right here just for a second. And we're just lining up corner to corner. So there's two different ways that you can mark your material. There's other ways as well. It's, like I said, up to personal preference, but this is kind of my go-to. And after we stitch this, I'll press it and this line will disappear. So that's always fun. There we go. All right, so I'm going to do a line going across this way. I'm going to do a line going across this way, and we're going to go over to the machine and get it set up for quilting. All right, so for quilting, I've already taken off my 1/4-inch foot. For quilting, there's a couple of feet that you can use. One of the most popular ones and highly recommended is a walking foot. And what this does is it allows the material to feed with the teeth on the top, with the teeth on the bottom, so that thicker material can feed through evenly and smoothly, and it's a great tool for that. Depending on the type of quilting you're doing, you may want to use a foot like this, and again, you need to test it out. But if you're going to do straight line quilting, I'm going to show you on this sample back here, and you want them evenly spaced out, this So Easy foot can also be very helpful because you just put this at a different measurement wherever you want it. And you just line that edge up with your next stitch. So as you sew down, you have a guide, which makes it really easy. So if you're doing straight line quilting and you want it to look like this, that So Easy foot can be very helpful. But let's attach our walking foot real quick. Let's see here. I'm gonna use my little screwdriver here. We do have to take this ankle off to attach the walking foot. In this tutorial that that you got, there is a linked video on how to attach a walking foot. So I highly recommend watching that if you've never attached a walking foot before. I think I'm gonna have to take this screw most of the way out. There we go. Let's see. Ah, perfect. If I don't have to take the screw all the way out, that's kind of preferred, but I may have to. There we go. Okay, so we want to make sure that bar that moves the teeth is above the needle bar, and then this little part right here hugs the shaft where that ankle was attached. And I kind of like to get it started as best I can with my fingers on this little screwdriver, because I am not the best at holding these screwdrivers.
Bethany, while you're doing that,
yeah.
Someone asked on your quilt in back, actually it was Kathy, she asked, I believe that you use the same color thread throughout with your quilting for the quilt on the back. Is that correct?
I sure did.
Yeah.
I sure did.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm because I know that's really what most people will do. And so, but like sometimes if you have like black and white and your black is all lined up in a diagonal, you could use black thread on one, but it's unusual to do that.
Yeah. So sometimes the hardest decision is picking the thread that you want to use for your project. But again, it comes back to personal preference. I kind of went with like a light tan, so it kind of blended in with some of these colors, but you can see it really well on the red. I know you probably can't from that far away. But it's not taking away from the design. But some people like their stitching to stand out. And it's great that you brought this up because just yesterday I was scrolling through social media and I saw where someone used like a thicker cording to do some quilting, and it really made it pop. And I was like, well, that's a whole like another look that it gives this quilt that it wouldn't have looked like had you used a thread that blended in. So again, it comes back to preference. And this is why taking the time to make one little block and testing this before you do your whole thing is really important, especially if you're doing a big one and you want to see, sometimes it helps to see it stitched out to go, oh, this is really what I want to do. You could use invisible thread. That is an option. I know some people do that. You can also stitch in the ditch. So that would mean that you would stitch right in the seam. So all your quilting is in the seams and not over and through any of your squares or whatever design you're using in your quilt. So you can hide your quilting in what's called stitch in the ditch. And there are feet specifically for helping with that and getting that stitch right into the ditch of the seam. All right, so let's switch. Oh, wrong camera. Let's switch back to here. I've got my walking foot on. Let me kind of turn it to the side. You'll see it here. All right. And I'm going to bring my little yummy sandwich over here. And I'm going to follow this this first line. There we go. And before I start, I do like to change my stitch length from 2.5 to 3 because we are going through a thicker material. You could also go up to 3.5. It's, again, personal preference. So let's do 3.5. And I am going to stop and take my little pin out. See, I'm stopping a little bit before I get to the pin because I don't want to get so close that it makes it hard to take the pin out. And I'm not, just so you know, I know it looks like I've got, you know, both hands here. That's really just to make sure that the fabric isn't turning. But I'm not pushing the fabric through. I mean, you never really need to because you've got a machine that's got teeth on the bottom that feeds it through, but this foot has teeth on the top. So they're kind of chomping away at my sandwich here and feeding it through together. There we go. I'm going to use my scissors here. All right. Now, before I show you that side, let me go ahead and stitch the other side where I just made that crease with that tool. There we go. Now, the crease is going to be a little harder to see, but I promise it's there. I do think the crease shows up better on like darker materials than it does lighter materials. So maybe I should have done the crease through the yellow side, but you know, I was not thinking about that at the moment. There we go. Awesome. Trim my threads. Okay, so let's switch back over to this camera. And now you can see I have stitched in both directions, but I still have my ink line here from that friction pin. So I'm just gonna press it and it goes away. Now after quilting, I do like to give it a good press. Helps me prepare my quilt sandwich for binding. Did you see how my ink just disappeared? Isn't that a fun tool? Again, that is a friction pen. And they are erasable pens on paper. They have a little eraser here, but do a color test on your material to make sure that it will disappear completely, because I've heard that some of these colors, I kind of just use the black and blue, but some of them can leave a little, it just depends on your material. So to be safe, always do a test first before you do it on your front. All right, so we have our sandwich. We're going to say that this is quilted. And now we need to prepare our quilt that we've done. You see my X through here. We want to make sure we trim threads. I've got a few threads here. Sometimes they get caught in there. Okay, good. And we're going to trim this up. We're going to take our ruler and we're going to trim all the way around here. I'm actually going to switch over to this other camera, all the cameras today. There we go. It's a peak of sunshine popping through. I apologize. Okay, so here is my sandwich all quilted. I'm going to take a straight edge ruler. You guys see this? I'm trying to do this in a tight space. I'm going to line the edge of my quilt front up with my ruler. I'm going to use a rotary cutter. This is my personal preference of how to get this nice clean edge. Oh. All right. And you just want to do that all the way around your quilt top. So take your time with this. Make sure it's nice and straight. Like a, there we go. And last little cut here. Now, obviously, you would have to do this around your whole quilt front. Okay. We're just doing a small version. Now I've got my little quilted piece that's ready for binding to finish the edge, and then it's done. It does come together very quickly. So what I'm going to do is show you the one that I've already got ready to go for binding. This was that straight line one that I did earlier. And let's talk about binding real quick. So our binding, I have a really long piece that is more than we need for this example. But our binding is 2.5 inches wide. And we fold it in half, making it 1.25 inch. And we're going to start on the back of our quilt. So this is, like I said, a mini version. Let me bring it over here so you guys can see this better. That sunshine peeking through my shade is throwing me off. Okay, so in the instructions, it tells you to find the center of the back of your quilt, okay? And to do a certain distance from each side, and that's where we're going to start, that's where we're going to end, and then we're going to match them up. So for this case, since we're doing a smaller scale, I've kind of marked it accordingly. And we're going to start here. But what we're doing is we're taking our binding and it's folded over, and the raw edge of the binding is lined up with the raw edge of our quilt. Okay, so we're going to start in the back, and we're going to sew a 3/8 inch seam allowance all the way around with our binding. And I'm going to show you how to get those perfect mitered corners. Okay, so this is always, I think, the part that people get a little intimidated by, is getting these perfect corners, getting it to close at the end perfectly, getting it to fold over and be nice. So we're going to go through all of that right now. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our machine, start right here at this clip, and we're going to sew 3/8 inch all the way around. Now, remember when you asked me earlier about how you know when to stop and pivot, and we're going to measure that. And so I always like to...
Bethany, I'm sorry. Before you go on with the binding, when you trimmed up your quilt, so when you trimmed up your block, were you lining the ruler up with the edge of the fabric, or were you using the ruler lines on your mat to cut the fabric?
I use my ruler that I'm putting on top to square it. I don't use the ruler lines on my mat, but you can use both. You can square it up that way. Because it's so small, I just cut using my ruler. So when I laid my big ruler down, I made sure that, you know, if I was laying it down like, and I had already cut this side was lined up with a line so that when I cut the next side, it was nice and square. But because my seams were lined up and my squares were cut perfectly, it all lined up perfectly.
Yeah, it depends a little bit, right, on if you're how well you've sewn it together a little bit.
It does. And with a bigger quilt, you would really want to make sure that you are utilizing that mat if you have it. This is just a pressing mat, so it's not ideal over here, but you would want to kind of square it off. But that first cut, I just used my ruler and made sure that it was lined up because I could tell that my seams lined up really well on that side. So I kind of squared off that way. But for bigger ones, you may need to take a little more time before you start cutting. Okay. All right, so I'm going to sew that 3/8 inch seam allowance across here, and I need to stop 3/8 of an inch from this edge, and I don't want to sew all the way off the edge. I need to stop, and I'm going to pivot and sew off to the corner. So what I'm going to do is, there's my 3/8, and I'm going to line up my 3/8 with this edge and here, so I know that 3/8 in, this is where I want to stop. Right here. So if I line this up here, yep, that's 3/8. So this is my stopping point. So I'm going to sew to this point, and then I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to sew. And if you need to use a ruler, you can. But I'm going to sew from here to this corner, okay? Right off the edge. So let's do that real quick. And if you couldn't see me write that on there, I marked my 3/8 inch stopping point from this edge, okay, from here to here. And I'm going to sew, pivot and sew to this corner, okay? So let's go over to the machine. There we go. Now, I already did the measure. I'm going to start a little closer down. Now, I know for a fact that on my walking foot, but whatever foot you're using, you may want to double check. But I know that from my center needle position to the edge of the foot is 3/8 inch. Let me see if I can move this a little better so you guys can see this head on. I know that from my center needle position to the edge of my foot is 3/8 inch. If I know that, then I know I can line my fabric up with the edge of the foot, and I'm going to get a 3/8 inch seam allowance. If your foot isn't measuring that, that's fine, but you may want to create a guide for yourself to make sure that you are staying within 3/8 inch seam allowance all the way around. And that's where you could take a little piece of painter's tape and line it up with that 3/8 inch mark of where it needs to be and give yourself a guide as you're sewing around. So don't hesitate to, work smart, make this easy for yourself. Okay, I'm going to keep my walking foot on because now we're adding even more fabric to it. So we want to make sure that we're being able to feed this through our machine really well. And we're just going to use a straight stitch, and I'm going to lower this down to, well, we can leave it at 3.5. Well, let's do 3. Okay. Now I'm going to do a few stitches and do a few back stitches. So this time you do want to back stitch at the beginning and the end where we're going to stop. And remember, I want to stop at my 3/8 inch point. And sometimes you just need to use your hand wheel for that. There we go. Perfect. Right on the dot. I'm going to leave my needle in the down position. I'm going to lift my foot. I'll move my binding over here. And I'm going to turn this so that I am now sewing in the direction of what is the corner edge of my quilt. I hit the wrong button. All right, so I did a couple back stitches on that corner. Now I'm going to trim my threads and show this to you. So We stitched 3/8 inch. We stopped at my point. I pivoted and I sewed to the corner. Now we're going to come over here. I know we're going back and forth, but trust the process, okay? All right. So now that I have this corner here, let's see if I can just lower this for you all without it falling off. Okay, I think that's about as low as it can go. So now that I have this here, I'm going to fold this up, okay, along this seam that I just stitched right here, okay? So I'm just folding it up. And then I'm going to fold it back. I'm holding this here. I'm going to fold this back down. And I'm going to line my binding up with this edge. And I want to make sure that this fold right here is lined up with this edge and this corner, okay? I'm going to do that again just so you can see it. Okay, so I've got my stitch here. It doesn't come all the way across because we don't want it to. We just want it to be right here. But I'm going to fold it up. And I kind of use my finger to hold this so it stays in alignment with that stitch. So it's nice and straight. You can see that this is aligning here. And then I'm just going to bring this back straight down. There we go. So now that that is in place and this is all lining up perfectly, I'm going to take a clip. I like to kind of clip here. Find one more clip. By the way, clips are so helpful when doing binding. So I highly recommend you get some clips if you don't have some. I think I sent a link to Amy to be able to put them in the chat if you don't have some clips. Highly recommend. All right, so now that I have this folded over, I am going to start right here, line up my fabric, 3/8 inch seam allowance, and we're going to go all the way down. But we're going to stop. Let me move this up. We're going to stop once again 3/8 inch before we get to this edge. So again, I can eyeball it these days, but for you guys, I'm going to make sure we take the time to measure this because I think it's important for that to be measured. Let's see here. There we go. That is, really should be, if you mess up, just use your iron, makes your little dot go away. And I'm gonna bring it down just a smidge. There we go. All right, so we're gonna stop and we're gonna, again, sew to this corner over here. We'll just kind of draw a line. There we go. All right, so we're gonna sew all the way down. So from here, we're gonna leave this fold and we're just gonna pick up right where we left off. If you have any questions, let me know and I can show you. Again, I'm going to show you again on every turn because this is, again, the part that I feel like a lot of people get a little hung up by. My little clip's in the way. Whoop, I'm sorry. Got this phone stand or camera stand right in front of me. So I want to make sure. There we go. I'm going to back stitch. Really want to secure my corner. Now, if you wanted to clip your binding all the way down before you sew, you absolutely can. At the same time, I'm going to hold it in place because we are doing a very small quilted piece for this example, so I don't really need to clip it. But if it was bigger, I would absolutely clip my binding down. Okay. And I just realized what time it is. So I am going to pivot this. I'm going to stop and I'm going to show you that one corner that we've already sewn because we are out of time. So that you know how to finish this real quick. Okay. So let me switch. I'm sorry. Okay. So we're going to pretend that I've sewn my binding all the way around. Once I've sewn my binding all the way around, I'm going to take this corner and flip it over. And I'm gonna press it. Okay. And then I'm going to flip it over and wrap it around the front. Going to give us that nice. Now, if I had this whole side sewn, it would show you that corner really well and not so many strings in the way. For sake of time, what you would do next, after you clip all of your binding down to the front, okay, is you would go back to your machine and you would top stitch all the way across the edge, all the way around. Okay, I know I didn't get to show you the whole piece of the binding, but I feel like getting started with the binding is the hardest part. So I wanted to make sure that you guys knew how to get started, how to get those nice clean edges. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, there we go. See? So you would just flip it over and sew all the way, your binding all the way around. To finish your binding, I do explain in the tutorial really well how to meet these two ends right here. Once you get all the way back around to where you started, how to meet them so that they create a nice clean line and it lays nice and flat and it's almost like the seam isn't there. So be sure to go look at that. There's some really good photos in that tutorial on how to finish this binding seam. Fortunately, we didn't have time to get all the way around, but I tried. We had a lot to cover today. I hope this helps you guys feel a little more comfortable about quilting, different quilting techniques and styles. So please, if you guys have questions, don't hesitate to let us know and reach out to us at Singer. But be sure you got the instructions, the tutorial, and this is recorded. So as you start making this, if you need to watch this again for any of these steps, be sure to go to Michael's YouTube channel and watch the replay. It's usually up within 24 to 48 hours on their YouTube channel. So this could be a great weekend project for you all to be able to make. I hope you enjoyed this class. We will be back in December to do some embroidery ornaments with you. So I'm excited for that class. So be sure to sign up for the next class. I know that Amy's already linked it in the chat for you. So go do that now and don't miss that class. And I hope that you take some time to make a wall hanging for yourself. And if you do, please use the hashtag Make It With Michaels and hashtag Singer Sewing so we can see your finished project. All right, guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.